Good morning, everyone. I am Doxy McCoy. I'm the Public Information Officer for the Office of the People's Council. And on behalf of the People's Council, Sandra Matabu-Fry, I want to thank everyone for coming to this press conference on the value of solar studies that the office has undertaken. Special thanks to Reverend Earl D. Trent and Florida Avenue Baptist Church for hosting us. Special thanks to Regina Ensley and Iris Toyer, members of the church, for their assistance. We will follow the agenda. I hope everyone picked one up at the table. We'll follow it along with the speakers, starting with the People's Council. And then following the remarks, the speakers will take questions all together. If you are a member of the press and have a question, we'll take questions from the press first. Please identify yourself and your organization. If you are a member of the community, we will take community questions following the press. Also, if you are associated with an organization, please name that organization or at least say your name. And now I thank everyone again and introduce Reverend Trent.
Good morning. It's my pleasure to welcome you here to Florida Avenue Baptist Church. Especially this month marks our 6th year since we installed our solar panels. We installed in April 2011. Now, in welcoming you here to our humble church, I think many of you know that we were the first African-American church in the DMV to install a solar system. I believe we were the second church altogether. And that's really a testimony to our members. They responded with a very brief period of time. We were first introduced to the concept, and then 3 months later, we were embarking on installing them. And for us, it's not just the technology. It's really the embodiment of our firm belief that we have a sacred mandate to take care of God's creation. And this, the installation and going solar, this has been really a kind of catalyst to environmental consciousness for us. We are saving and continue to save almost 20% or a little over 20% on our electric bill. And we had hoped, it had been projected that it would only be 15%. And that 20% is real money. And so we are very encouraged by that. But also it has served as a catalyst for us, for persons in their homes, just an overall environmental consciousness. And so we're glad that the Office of People's Council is here this morning and is really helping to expand the solar opportunities for the residents of the District of Columbia. So we welcome you and God bless you.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. And of course, thank you, Reverend Trent, for opening and allowing us to host this session today. But more importantly, I want to thank you for your leadership in promoting the district's vision for an environmentally safe and sustainable city that benefits not just your congregation, but all of the residents of the District of Columbia. So thank you again. Last year, I was tasked by the City Council to commission a study simply to address emerging alternatives for energy choice for residential consumers. However, given the seismic regulatory and environmental policy changes that were occurring in the district and the rapidly increasing number of DC electric residential consumers submitting applications for solar installations, I realized that the district would benefit from having a comprehensive value of solar studies specifically designed to address the unique characteristics of our city. It was a first of its kind. My objective was to provide policymakers, including regulators, legislators, as well as consumers, with a set of baseline tools for evaluating the district's current solar policies, solar capacity potential, and the future goals for solar development. It was important for me to create a vehicle to help facilitate the delivery of the benefits of going solar to residents in all 8 wards of our city. I am delighted to report that our findings are positive. The studies confirm that presently, the economic and technical potential of rooftop solar can substantially meet the electricity needs of DC consumers at a cost-effective and affordable rate, while at the same time provide health and environmental benefits. We selected 2 technical consulting firms to assist us in conducting the value of solar study. They were specifically designed to identify issues and make recommendations regarding policies to 1, support distributed generation, 2, assess the potential for various types of distributed generation systems, including solar PV, and compute the value of solar in the district using both utility system and societal costs. For the first study, we selected Synapse Energy Economics, a research and consulting firm specializing in energy, economic, and environmental topics in the electric power sector for public interest, government, and international clients. Specifically, the Synapse study, which is entitled Distributed Solar in the District of Columbia, a Value of Solar Study, addresses policy and rate design options, technical and economic potential for distributed generation, computes the value of solar using utility system costs and societal costs, and examines cost shifting or cost subsidy issues among participants and non-participants. Recognizing the need to go beyond the strictly technical aspects of solar development, we also retained the services of Jerome Page and Associates, a local DC-based economic and technical consulting firm. The Page study, Solar Potential for Integration of Distributed Energy Resources in Low and Medium Income Communities, provides an analysis of emerging distributed energy alternatives for low-income consumers. As we know, low and fixed income consumers are frequently left out of the conversation. The resulting void contributes to, and in many instances exacerbates, a solar divide among our residents. The Page study examines District of Columbia specific demographic data, building types, existing programs, links energy efficiency to solar success, evaluates the impact solar may have on affordable housing, and suggests a wide range of recommendations to create value for those who adopt solar. Unquestionably, the district government is a national leader promoting sustainable energy resources. It has aggressively fostered and supported the development of innovative distributed energy resources and energy efficiency programs. These policies include an aggressive renewable portfolio standard requiring that 50% of retail sales to be met by renewable energy by 2032, with a 5% solar carve-out generated from DC-sited solar. The establishment and enforcement of alternative compliance penalties utilities must make when sufficient SRECs cannot be purchased. In addition, there's a recently enacted Solar for All program, which establishes a target for reducing the electric bills of 100,000 low-income consumers through solar by 2032, which will be administered by the DC Department of Energy and the Environment. While the district has commendably pursued a positive course of action, this traction has advanced without a centralized DC-specific imperial database from which policymakers can draw as they make decisions. At the very least, this study can provide a supportive predicate in advance of and concomitant with local initiatives. It provides valuable recommendations to eliminate and mitigate existing social and economic barriers and challenges. As People's Counsel, I have committed myself and my team to identifying and advocating for policies that reflect the educational, economic, and cultural diversity of the city. I'm confident that the findings will not only assist OPC in its mission to educate and advocate for district residents, but also will provide other district decision makers with in-depth and valuable information as we collectively navigate the uncharted territory of renewable energy resources. So what did I learn from the study? What is there to be learned? What we know is that Washington, D.C. has substantial, unrealized social potential, and the declining costs and expanding solar programs are bringing solar within reach of more and more residents. As such, Washington, D.C.'s ambitious solar goals are achievable. Throughout this process, OPC has consistently reached out to stakeholders, including solar advocates, utility representatives, Energy Office staff members, and independent peer reviewers to receive their input on its methodology and findings. My point here is that this is not a solo dance. No one, no entity can do this or carry out the mission without cooperation and collaboration. And I hope that the spirit of collaboration that was reflected as we gathered information and touched base with stakeholders will continue as we move forward. Again, thank you very much for attending. I'm sure that you'll have questions. I have here the team that put together these reports, and I'm very excited to allow them to speak with you and for you to ask any questions that you may have. First, I'd like to have Dr. Thomas Vitolo come from Synapse Energy Economics, and he will give you a brief overview of the study that they prepared. Thank you again.
The study's 175 pages, so I'll try to be especially brief. Good morning. My name is Thomas Vitolo. I'm a senior associate at Synapse Energy Economics and a co-author of the Distributed Solar in the District of Columbia study. I want to start by talking about the value of solar in the district, the totality of all benefits and all costs associated with distributed solar PV in the District of Columbia. For context, a kilowatt hour of electricity purchased from PEPCO in the district costs about 9 cents. We reviewed the value of solar to the utility system by considering each way that in-district solar provides benefits and imposes costs to the utility system, including energy benefits, generation capacity benefits, transmission and distribution capacity benefits, RPS compliance benefits, price effect benefits, system loss avoidance benefits, risk reduction benefits, and integration costs. All in, each kilowatt hour of electricity generated by PV in DC is worth 13.3 cents to the system. We also reviewed the value of solar to society by considering both utility system costs and benefits and costs and benefits to society. In addition to the costs and benefits discussed just a moment ago, Synapse also included expanded price effects and the social cost of carbon. All in, each kilowatt hour of solar electricity generated in the district provides 19.4 cents of value to society. And so we know PV in DC has tremendous value, but how much PV can the district accommodate? Solar in the district has grown from almost nothing in 2009 to 20 megawatts in 2016. And the technical potential for solar in the district is vast. 85,000 usable small roofs and over 100 million square feet of usable space on large rooftops. That's enough small residential rooftop space for an additional 360 megawatts, and enough large rooftop space for another 1,320 megawatts. This potential represents 84 times more solar than DC has currently. And these numbers don't include building solar PV on canopies above parking lots. The economic potential is also significant. Synapse analyzed the costs of new solar and the value of existing subsidies for both small and large systems. If existing barriers remain in place, we expect solar to grow to just over 200 megawatts over the next 10 years, and then plateau. If some of the existing barriers are removed or reduced, the district could achieve its goal of 5% of all electricity coming from in-district solar, about 400 megawatts in 10 years, and about 550 megawatts by 2032. So what are these barriers? Well, I'll discuss just a few of them quickly. Access to usable space is a barrier. Residential solar PV is most common on single-family, owner-occupied homes. But that describes the housing status of about 28% of DC residents. Roof decks and historic districts are also barriers that are quite common in Washington. There are also financial challenges. Whether buying or leasing, solar PV requires significant financial credit, which can exclude many potential customers. The good news is there are a number of ways to reduce or minimize these barriers. And since our time here is brief, I'll bait the question now or ask you to check out the study. I would add also, there had been a barrier that the process to get interconnected had been taking quite a long time. And the great news is PEPCO has made great strides in reducing the amount of time that it took them to ensure the safety and reliability of the system for each solar installation. And so credit to PEPCO for doing that. The future is bright. The value of solar in Washington, D.C. is amongst the highest in the country due to Washington's unique confluence of urban-only service, public policy requirements, and benefits associated with a large wholesale marketplace. The potential, both technical and economic, is tremendous. Siting is improving as well, thanks to creativity and innovation from the private sector. And community solar is really taking off due to an important rate-making change and the remarkable efforts of a long list of advocates dedicated to making the benefits of solar accessible to a broad cross-section of the population of the district. If policymakers, PEPCO management, solar installers, and residents continue to work towards solar PV deployment, Synapse has no doubt that the district can achieve its ambitious goal of generating 5% of all its electricity needs with local distributed solar energy. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Jerome Page. As indicated, I'm with Jerome Page and Associates, and have one of my colleagues here from Pier, Sam McKellen. Raise your hand. She's one of the engineers who's worked on the project. As the People's Council indicated, the focus of our study was on looking at how solar was being managed and implemented locally in terms of the District of Columbia, with a specific focus on low-income residents. And the household income level we use to define low income is 68,500. So we use the number of 68,500 as the benchmark to identify low-income neighborhoods, and then in identification of those low-income neighborhoods, identify the number of buildings that could sustain or support solar. So looking at that and using the technologies of GIS and other methodologies for assessing the potential for solar, based on our study, there's 64,551 rooftops in low-income communities in the District of Columbia. And those rooftops include residential and mixed-use buildings. Of the 64,551 rooftops, 61,843 are residential rooftops, and 2,708 are mixed-use rooftops. So with 61,843 residential rooftops, you can see what the potential might be for solar. If we take into consideration the combined rooftops, that accounts for, we can estimate that has the maximum theoretical potential of producing 543 megawatts of power. The residential rooftops, we break that down between residential and non-residential, or residential and mixed use. The residential rooftops have the capacity to produce 483 megawatts, and the mixed use have a capacity for 60 megawatts. So if you just take the number 61,843, and the median household size in the District of Columbia is 2.3. You can get a sense of how many people that might be involved in having the potential to receive solar. Now, all rooftops aren't solar ready, and there are some reasons for understanding how you go about making rooftops solar ready. The lack of space on the roofs, the shading from other buildings, other structural designs. So all those rooftops won't be usable. However, even if rooftops are not available, then shared solar, off-site solar, community solar is available, and that opens up an opportunity for solar. Our study didn't look at the complete opportunities of community solar. We recognize the importance of it, and we also highlight that any strategy in the Solar for All legislation to implement that will require an active consideration of community solar. In order to activate community solar fully, we'll have to be able to institute something known as a virtual net metering. So we have this potential, these 64,551 rooftops. That's sort of the theoretical maximum technical capacity. What's been happening on the ground? And our study looked at 5 case studies to see what was actually happening in real time in the District of Columbia. Habitat for Humanity DC had put up passive houses in Ward 7 and Ward 5, which has reduced energy consumption in these buildings 80 to 90%, and has led to significant energy savings for those households. Weinberg Commons in Ward 7 has used energy efficiency retrofits and upgrades to produce energy savings up to 70 to 90% for the residents there. Both the passive houses from Habitat for Humanity and the Weinberg Commons are moving toward what we call net zero energy use structures. Mikasa and Inscape Publico in Ward 6, working in conjunction with the DC Department of Housing and Community Development, are looking at net zero housing in parcels in Ward 6. Will not only include the net zero features and solar, but will also include green roofs. One of the things that was particularly interesting in our study, that the real leader in solar and energy efficiency development and the bringing the benefits of solar and distributed energy resources District of Columbia is the DC Department of Housing and Community Development. They have what they known as their green standards, and for projects that are funded through DHCD, they are pushing the developers of those projects to have energy efficiency design, sustainability, distributed energy resources, as well as solar PV. And then there's the DC Housing Authority. The DC Department of Housing and Community Development focuses on what we call affordable housing. The DC Housing Authority focuses on what we call public housing. And the DC Department of Housing, the DC Housing Authority is in the process of redeveloping Langston Terrace homes in Ward 5, and they will be including in that a lot of distributed energy resources as well as solar, such that when they ultimately upgrade the power plant at Langston, it will provide 100% of the electricity for Langston and 15% of all the energy that the Department of Housing and Community Development uses in its properties. So it's one thing to talk about the theoretical and technical potential for solar. What we see in the District of Columbia is actually the application of solar. And we mentioned in our study, I see Anya there, is that she's been a pioneer in group purchasing in order to get solar. And I'm a group purchaser of solar as a part of the DC Sun Initiative. So there are a lot of activities. So it's not just theory in the District of Columbia. The agencies are pushing it, as well as the policymakers. So those are the nonprofit and public models. What about the for-profit models? Well, we looked at those to see their applicability for the District of Columbia, and there are a range of options that firms like a social solar city can provide: cash purchases, loan purchases, power purchase agreements, leases, And what we see is that, again, the market has responded to say that solar is feasible. So in one sense, we don't have to do any more feasibility studies. The market has already spoken. And we see in jurisdiction after jurisdiction, more and more people are responding. However, these market responses don't necessarily accrue to low-income households. So a number of our policy recommendations focus on how we can assist low-income residents to take advantages of solar. Many of the models for the market models that we're most familiar with focus on individual households. However, the market has also responded with off-site or shared solar. In jurisdictions across the country, I don't know whether you're familiar with locally with the CSAs, where you can buy an agricultural share from a farmer and go every week and you pick up your bag of vegetables or whatever the farmer offers. There are these solar gardens across the country now, where the way in which people are accessing solar is by buying a share of a solar farm. And these are both jurisdictional in the sense that they take place within a jurisdiction, say within the state, and there are also models that are multi-jurisdictional. In the District of Columbia, there's a firm that allows you to purchase a share of solar. So you don't have to, and the minimum share for the model in one of the models in the District of Columbia is $300. So the market is increasingly finding ways to make solar available to residents in the District of Columbia of all income groups. So is there value to solar for low-income residents? Obviously, the nonprofit and public models we looked at says yes. Say yes. The for-profit models say yes. And so there's indefinitely value for solar for low-income residents on the ground. What does it do? It gives them access to energy that reduces or eliminates their monthly electricity costs, thereby reducing their overall energy burden. The value of solar reduces their need for ongoing taxpayer and ratepayer subsidies to pay their electricity bills. The value of solar increases their access to solar power's financial, environmental, and societal benefits. The value of solar expands their energy choices, provides for them their energy security, and enhances their energy independence. So is there a value for solar for low-income residents in the District of Columbia? Yes, it is.